Okay, welcome to this little live chat, probably with myself pretty much. What I'm wanting to talk about today is basically the world at the moment. The way I look at it, there's a lot of forces coming together to try and separate us, to pull us apart, and using that separation to extract our power, using our fear state to drive division and to drive ease of control by few over the many. And I've been thinking about it, and really we need to try and find an antidote. There's never going to be a position in life where people are not going to want to use these type of actions to take control of others. As I see it, it's part of some people's human nature to want to control. But what we can do is we can be really wise with how we connect with each other and the systems that we create in order to mitigate as much of that potential trust destruction as possible. In doing so, I've done some research, and I'm at the initial stages. So this is really a platform for me to discuss and explore my ideas that I'm coming together with. And I've primarily looked at two sources to keep it relatively simple for myself to start with, just during this initial phase. I've looked into the power dynamics, as described really, really well by the book 48 Laws of Power. And I've also looked at the various sections of the Tao Te Ching, which is more like the natural laws of flow and harmony. And I'm trying to find, through those, I'm trying to be guided to some really guiding, some foundational principles of what creates long-lasting, trusting, harmonious, and purposeful systems and connections. So, in effect, I'm looking at a different time scale to what the 48 Laws of Power is talking about. That's talking about momentary, short-term gain in a world that sees everything as a zero-sum situation, winners and losers. I'm probably looking at it from a point of view of, if we push that time out, if we look through a different lens rather than a zero-sum game, if we look through a lens of there is so much more that's possible, there's win-win scenarios that are possible in most circumstances. And if we look from that lens, what can be created that enhances the most amount of people possible and allows us to live more flourishing, rich lives, not just pretty ones on the surface, but really rich, deep, connected lives. That's what I'm trying to explore. And I've got quite a bit of research that I've done that I need to go through step by step so that I can understand and analyze it. So if anybody's listening to this and has some comments, some theories that they want to throw my way, I would love that, because it's going to help me really analyze what's real and what's bullshit in my thoughts at the moment. And I'm going to start. So the plan is to do, as often as possible, to come in and do the next little section. So I don't want to do it all in one big hit. I just want to do a little section at a time. And today I'm going to start with what I would call kind of like a foundational thought on how this works. And it's a little theory. It's probably a theory that's related to something someone said before, but I haven't seen it anywhere. And it's, any system will tend to concentrate that which it is optimized for. Okay, I'm going to put that down as like a basic law of life, a law of human systems, is that any system at all is going to concentrate whatever it is that it's optimized to do. And I think this is really why I think this might be a foundational piece, is because we often get told what our systems do for us, but then we see that that's not the reality of them. So it's really handy to look past the rhetoric, to look past the words, and to look at the actions that are really taking place. Because that's what we can truly judge things on. That's what we can truly understand things on, is not the words, it's not the rhetoric, it's the actions and the results. So thinking through that, just to put a couple of examples out there. Business systems. Businesses and the whole ethos around business and commerce is about increasing capital. It's about increasing wealth, but wealth as capital is the primary driver. Some would say wealth is cash flow, but cash flow is one form of capital. It's not necessarily the most efficient, but it's one form of capital. Political systems, they're designed to concentrate power. So if I think of the Western systems of democracy, what they do is they concentrate power in a small area for a few people, and they do that by extracting power from others. And in the initial stages, that might work quite well. But if you allow the system to just continue to grow and grow under its own steam, what it promotes and what it concentrates is what it's optimized for. So the people that can go into it, especially in a political power sense, are the people that are optimized to concentrate power to themselves. So you're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of political systems will eventually break down into tyrannies of one form or another. No matter how noble they may start, if their design is to concentrate the power, which I haven't seen too many political systems that are not designed in that way, the end game of them, years later, maybe 100, 200 years, whatever it is, that system will fall under its own weight and become tyrannical in effect, unless the system is smartly designed to be optimized for something other than the concentration of power. And that's where the big discussion in that sphere would be. But we can get to that in a minute. So on the other hand, something like a community co-op. So they started popping up around the time of the Gilded Age. And really a community co-op is designed to increase mutual abundance. So it's designed for people to share and cooperate and for everyone to benefit together. That's its intention. Now, if they're poorly run, they'll turn into something else. But if they are run from that premise and they're optimized for it, then they will continue to produce harmony and prosperity for a majority of people. If I look at schools, if you look at a school, what does it usually produce? Okay, you could say education, wisdom, I'd argue that. I think what it creates, at least from the school system that I was in and the ones that I've seen my kids in and everything, it tends to create conformity. So schools don't tend to want to have flourish different ways of thinking. They want to have flourishing a consistent way of thinking. So it's more reliable, more transferable from person to person, and we can understand each other better. Not to say that's either a good or a bad thing, depends on the circumstance. But if that's what a school is optimized for, it's optimized for conformity of the way we think, then it's going to produce more conformity. And that means less creativity. In essence, more conformity by its essence means less creativity. Doesn't mean no creativity, But those extreme ends of creativity are much harder to access when everybody's mindset is more conformed to a certain way of thinking and believing and feeling. So I guess what I'm trying to say within all of this is it comes back to that old adage, which is don't believe the words people say. Words are cheap, and words can be lovely and they can tell you where you're going, but they're very easy to deceive someone with words. Look at a person's actions, and there, in that, you find the truth. Now, if you want to take this and look at the systems in your world or the relationships in your world, sit and analyze them and see where they really sit, then I've got maybe 5 questions that are well worth asking. So the first one is, whatever system you're looking at, whether it's the way your family works or political systems in your country, what does the system claim to optimize? What does it tell you it's trying to make flourish, to optimize, to create more of? Question 2, what does it actually measure? Like when you think about it. So, an economy in the West, a capitalist economy claims that it wants to optimize wealth for all and opportunity. What does it actually measure? It measures things like the total domestic product. It measures things like interest rates. It measures things like profit. It doesn't measure opportunity. It doesn't measure lifestyle. So it's not designed for those things. It's designed for the first things, the things that it actually measures. And that leads us to the third question. What behaviors does it reward? So again, if we look at the economy, what behaviors does it reward? It rewards getting money. It rewards producing capital. Okay, that's pretty simple. And if we go back in time, what has it actually increased? So, we've gone through what it says it should do. What has it actually increased over time? And if I look at the current economy in where I'm from, Australia, the US, England, all the Western world and other parts as well, what's actually increased is a concentration of capital. So it's, you could argue that there are people's lifestyles that have increased, no doubt about it. But at its heart, what's happened is the capital is concentrating more and more to fewer and fewer people. So does that, we go back, so the last question, if there is a mismatch, which of the first 3 best predicts the 4th? So taking our economy idea, what's actually increased is a concentration in capital and a whole lot of debt. That's the other thing that's increased a hell of a lot. So which of those first 3 best predicts it? It's definitely not what the system claims that it optimizes. It's not opportunity and growth for all. What does it measure? Yeah, that's not too bad. It measures gross domestic product. It measures these big things. So it's a bit of an indicator. But what behaviors does it reward? It rewards collating as much capital as possible, as fast as possible, in whatever way works. And so that's the real mechanism. It's really a combination of 3 and 2 that predict what the economic systems are really driving for. And you can put that through any system that you like. Again, if we go to something like schools, what does the system claim it optimizes? It claims it optimizes intelligence, knowledge, and understanding. Okay, what does it measure? It measures grades. It measures how correct you are on certain standardized tests. What behavior does it reward? It rewards thinking in ways that get you those high grades. So it rewards maybe intelligence, some hard work, and conformity. What has actually increased over time? Conformity. Critical thinking skills are dropping through the floor. They're still there because they're part of innate human thinking, but they're being pushed aside. What's really increasing is conformity of thinking. Conformity, not on a broad sense, but in the nuts and bolts of how we think. Strange ideas that can shake up and give us a new perspective are harder to reach. And so to question 5 for that one, it's what does it measure? It measures grades. And what behaviors does it reward? It rewards the behaviors that make those high grades more likely. And so that's what's increasing. Conformity, hard work, and you would also say the lack of wanting to make a mistake. That's the other thing. Because the rewards are the high grades, on the other side of that, making mistakes is punished instead of looked at as just a step along the way. If you don't make those high grades in the end, you don't have the opportunities. But to really explore life, you have to make mistakes. To really understand why this thing that may be true is really true, you've got to explore the other side of it and see why it doesn't work. And so just sitting with those 5 questions for any system that you can think of, family, the business that you work in, the sporting club that you're in, if you sit and analyze it, and this is going to be very biased depending on your own understanding of what it measures and what it rewards and what's increased. It's a very subjective kind of set of questions in a certain way, or it can be. But if you apply it rigorously with actual thought to what systems you're looking at, you'll really see if that system is truly living up to what it claims, or if it's actually optimized for something else and it's creating more of that. So yeah, that's the end of my first one. Thank you for anyone that's watched. I invite people to chuck in some comments, tell me if I'm full of shit or if I've said something that resonates with them, because this is just an exploration for me at this stage, and the more information I can get, the better off I'm going to be to create something that's really robust and useful. Thank you. Don't know how to turn that off. There we go.